Early last century, Mary Boyne and her husband Ned were a well-to-do American couple who had decided to migrate and settle in one of the southern counties of England. After busy and productive business lives, they were looking forward to a sedate lifestyle of smelling the roses, wherein Ned could work on his long-planned book on economics. On arrival in the island realm, they had immediately consulted Mary's cousin, Alida Stair, who had followed a similar path and was now well established in her own English mansion. A romantic streak in the couple had them yearning for a historic Tudor property, regardless of inconveniences such as geographical remoteness or a lack of electricity. They had so far rejected all of Alida's suggestions until she mentioned a house called Ling in Dorsetshire, which she explained could be bought for a song. It also ticked all their aspirational boxes, with no heating system, an unreliable water supply, and even an old village church within the grounds. Of course, the final prerequisite was that there be a resident ghost. Alida hedged the question, but finally admitted that, yes, there was a ghost, but you would never know it. The Boynes were intrigued by this statement and continued to probe the matter. Alida explained that the story relating to Ling went that there is a ghost, but you don't find out until long afterwards. You have to wait quite some time, and then one day suddenly you say to yourself, that was it. Within 3 months of this conversation, the Boynes were firmly ensconced in the magnificent home called Ling, enjoying the massive open fireplace and rambling in the scenic landscape. Their new lifestyle contrasted with their previous, what seemed now mundane existence before the financial windfall of Ned's business, Blue Star Mine, had enabled them the freedom to relocate. Over time, Mary did sense some kind of psychic presence in the house and wondered if it had brought about her husband's more sombre mood, which she finally attributed to his preoccupation with writing his book. And, remembering Alida's words, there had been no one around during their move-in who could later be identified as a ghost. The couple stopped talking about Alida's claim and simply got on with their lives in their new abode. During Mary's excited exploration of the old house, she found herself pressing a hidden panel, which opened to reveal a flight of spiral stairs that led up to a flat ledge of the roof. The view from the precarious corner was spectacular, and she quickly found Ned to show him the stunning scene. It was there that they spotted the figure of a man in loose grey clothing sauntering down their front drive towards the house, as if in doubt as to which way to go. Seeming to recognise him, Ned told Mary to wait and hurried down the staircase to meet the visitor. After a cautious descent, Mary found her husband alone in the library and going through some papers on his desk. The man was nowhere to be seen. Ned told her that he had thought him to be their plumber, but had found no one there. The strange incident started the couple talking about the ghost again, whether they had finally seen one, and, remembering Alida's words, how long it would take afterwards before they realised it was a ghost. Life went on as they enjoyed their walks and cosy fires until one day as they opened their mail. An American friend had sent Mary a letter containing a newspaper clipping which shocked her to the core. The article claimed that a former business partner of Ned's, a man named Elwell, was suing him over being defrauded of his share in the Blue Star Mine. Ned completely downplayed the revelation, saying that some shyster lawyer had got hold of Elwell, whom Ned claimed to have actually helped. He told her that the article was out of date and that Elwell had withdrawn his claim, realising that he had no chance of success. Ned had expected this news and just received it in another letter. Mary's instant relief was echoed by her husband's look of relaxation as he reassured her that all was well and had never been better. The couple continued their idyllic existence as Mary applied herself to tending the house grounds and gardens. One morning, having planned a meeting with the gardener and a boilermaker from Dorchester, she turned to see a young, slightly built visitor approaching her kitchen garden. The gentleman raised his hat courteously, and she asked whom he had come to see. "I came to see Mr. Boyne," he stated, with a slight American accent. As Mary's husband usually wrote in the mornings, she asked the man if he had an appointment. "He never sees anyone in the morning," said Mary, to which the young man hesitated and dejectedly started to walk away. Feeling sorry for him, Mary asked if he had come a long way, and when he answered yes, gave him directions into the library where Ned was working. Soon, on arrival of the boilermaker and gardener, she was absorbed in making arrangements to fix the piping of the hothouse, then doing her own cost calculations inside the strangely silent house. With the maid soon to serve lunch, Mary then went to fetch her husband. He was not at his desk in the library, nor in his room upstairs. According to the maid, Ned had gone out, but not out into the garden to meet her, out the front door and up the drive. He was nowhere to be seen, and had left no message. Mary soon found out that he had been observed leaving with a mystery caller. The staff did not even know the man's name, as he had written it on a piece of paper, which he had folded and asked to be handed to Mr. Boyne. Knowing her husband to be a creature of habit following his retirement, Mary found his strange absence completely out of character. She concluded that he had decided to get rid of his caller by accompanying him to the railway station, or at least walking part of the way with him. By evening, when Ned had still not returned, Mary was overcome with a vague sense of dread and confusion. As lamps were lit in the house, she feverishly searched the documents on her husband's desk for the slip of paper bearing the visitor's name. The first thing she found was an unfinished letter in her husband's hand to an unknown Mr. Parvis. It started, "I have just received your letter announcing Elwell's death, and while there is now no further risk of trouble, it might be safer." She again sent for the maid who had seen Ned leave, and asked for a description of the unknown man accompanying him. It was then that she realised that the mystery caller was none other than the young man she had seen in the garden and directed into the house. The search for Ned Boyne extended across the country, indeed from shore to shore, with his name and image emblazoned on every available signpost and wall space. The police investigation included contacting Mr. Parvis, the intended recipient of Ned's last letter. The company lawyer in their American hometown denied any knowledge of its meaning. It was, however, clear that Ned's potential litigator, a man named Elwell, was now deceased. Weeks later, the grieving Mary had another visit, this time from Mr. Parvis himself, who was in England on business. Meeting with him in her library, he asked her what she intended to do about Bob Elwell's family. He explained that her husband had made his fortune from the Blue Star Mine by getting ahead of the young Elwell, who had put him onto the scheme in the first place. Parvis described Ned's manipulations as not really straight down the line, but business. Elwell, who had ended up with nothing, had tried to take his own life in despair. His initial attempt had been unsuccessful, and he had lingered, passing 2 months later. Elwell's widow, children and mother had been left destitute and had appealed to the public for assistance. Mary sat there shaken, suddenly aware of her own ignorance of her husband's business dealings, as Parvis produced a newspaper with the damning headline, "Widow of Boyne's victim forced to appeal for aid." He asked if she was able to put her name down for a donation. The newspaper article, which Mary couldn't bear to read, contained 2 photographs. The first was of Ned, and the second made her cry out in confusion. "This is the man who came for my husband." The image was of Robert Elwell, who she identified as the young man to whom she had spoken in her garden. Elwell had passed away the day before her husband's disappearance. His visit 2 months before that, when she and Ned had spotted him from the roof, she now realised had frightened her husband. But Elwell had not yet succumbed and had to wait another 2 months to finally pass, which was when he came back for Ned. Amidst her guilt at having sent Elwell to her husband in the library, Mary remembered the words of her cousin Alida, "You won't know it's a ghost until long, long afterwards."